Queen Elizabeth died this week. And, everyone's talking about her life and how she lived her life. They talk, listening to the coverage, they talk about her values being on display and lived publicly. And her life really spoke to who she was. Did you know that your life speaks too? Your life speaks. When I use the word life, what I mean is your choices, your words, your actions and reactions, your relationships, your finances, your home, and since we're focused on this, your work. So what do those things say? I use the word speak, so my talk title is Let Your Life Speak. When I say speak, that means to show your inner life, your inner self, as your life, your values on display, your beliefs and actions, the people and things that you honor with your time and attention, how you spend your resources. My mic is way too loud. How you spend your resources, what you expect to happen, how you expect things to be. Those are the ways that our lives speak. So my question for you today is, who were you born to be? There are actually two answers I want you to get for yourself today, and one of them is, you might even want to write them down. Who were you born to be? Just think about that. If you want to close your eyes and think about that, who were you born to be? What does your answer say about your life as it is right now? Have you dedicated your life to becoming and living as you know you were born to be? Here's the deal. We were all born in a certain way that we were born. We're speaking a certain language. We're based in a certain situation or a family or a community. We're surrounded by very particular people. And all of those details are what Spirit knew were necessary for you to live the life of being the you that you were born to be, to become who you came here to become, to give the world the gifts that you were here to give. That stage had to be set for you. So the question is, are you living the person you were born to be? The person you were perfectly carved to be by all the situations and circumstances and challenges that you have passed by? If not, my second question is, and this is the second thing I want you to get for yourself, what scared you along the way into believing you weren't good enough or capable enough to be the person you knew you were born to be? I want you to know that answer of what scared you, because if you can identify and overcome that fear, if you can release whatever's holding you back, you have a bigger possibility ahead for you. The other side of your fear is the person that you were born to be. So two questions: who were you born to be, and what scared you to keep yourself from becoming that? Because here's the spiritual truth. Your life is the life of God. And I mean that. Your very life, your breath, is the life and breath of the universe. The life and breath that breathes through and lives through everything. There's only one life, one source of life. Your life is the life of God taking form as you. Now, whether or not you grasp that or honor that, is that very basic spiritual truth, whether you do that or not, your life actually speaks to the world about whether or not you are living as the life of God. Are you living as the life of God? Now, you're going to say, Laine, what do you mean by that? How can anyone know if they live the life of God? Here's how you know. If your life speaks love, if your life speaks peace, if your life speaks beauty and balance and strength and light, abundance and joy, then your life speaks as spirit. But if your life speaks other things like comparison and competition, If your life speaks judgment and criticism, it speaks scarcity and loss. Basically, if your life speaks fear, then your life is speaking way more human than God. So I want you to think about a continuum. You know what a continuum is, one end and the other end. One end is fear, and the other end is love and passion. And as we go through our day, we're either moving towards the fear end or towards the love and passion end. Fear is low energy. Love and passion are high energy. So we are either all the time either getting more depressed, more walled off, increasing our numbing behaviors and self-protective mechanisms and all that, or we are relaxing more, forgiving more, loving more, opening ourselves up more, right? And when your life speaks, it tells you, almost like a mirror, which direction you're moving. And sometimes it'll tell you you've hunkered down in one place and you're just stagnant. You're going to stay right there. Ernest Holtz said something like this, and it's not on the slide because I didn't find the quote, but basically he said something like, if your life is tending towards more positivity, tending towards more happiness and goodness, then you're on the right track. And one of the secrets of allowing your life to speak of your highest self, one secret is follow your passion, especially passions that were awake in you as a child. Because passion is basically equivalent to high energy. When you're passionate about something, you're just jazzed, you're all into it, right? And so often we lose touch with those early passions and we start pursuing interests that seemed more appropriate to somebody, usually our parents or the world around us. But when we do that, so many of us start heading in the wrong direction on the continuum. Jeff Bezos, the founder and CEO of Amazon, said this: one of the huge mistakes people make is that they try to force an interest on themselves. You don't choose your passions choose you. All of us were born with things that instantly interested us and charged us up. Things that led us to fun and involvement and engagement with life, with the world around us. So what were yours? Some of the common ones are athletics and music and cooking and writing or reading on a great variety of topics. You have a passion. You had a passion then. So I want to talk about myself because that's basically the best story I can tell, right? And I think that my experiences are illustrative of this particular point. So if you ask them, my family would tell you, lots of stories actually, about how I lined up all my stuffed animals. Y'all look like bears and kangaroos and things to me, and all my dolls. I'd line them all up, and I pretended to be a teacher. A foreshadowing of this moment, right? And when I was younger, I was constantly joining groups of like-minded people, like Girl Scouts and church youth groups and clubs at school and leadership teams and musical groups, just to name a few. Again, a foreshadowing of this moment right now. So it was in following those early passions of teaching or speaking and groups of like-minded people that my interests were found and my natural beingness could come forth and speak to the world. And in following my passions and developing them, my career kept growing, and my personal teaching and coaching and counseling were continuously honed as I continued on my trajectory to the place I stand today. But guess what? I developed into adulthood the same way all of us developed, through tons of challenges and seeming failures and painful relationships on every level, loss after loss. I believe that I had very, very typical life experiences filled with hard stuff, right? And you know what? Those are the very kinds of things that develop and train all of us to be our best selves. It is in these situations that our life speaks the loudest and tells us which way we're heading on the continuum, right? But a problem starts developing when we stop overcoming the challenges, once we decide that we're done forgiving our mistakes and we're done forgiving everybody else, once we stop finding the blessing in the hardship or the silver lining in the clouds, once we declare our cup is absolutely half empty, and once we erect walls around ourselves to keep the pain from ever happening again, then we interrupt our path on becoming the person we were supposed to become. And so many of us just stopped in our tracks by disappointment. We just pitch a tent right there. We get off the tracks. We're like, this is where I'm staying. I'm going to stay there hoping I don't get hurt again. And we can start slipping into fear-based living. Because what we do is we kind of settle into allowing our life to speak something less than who we were born to be. We let go of our authentic passions and start accepting something far less, and we accept good enough, and we hover there. Please tell me you can relate to that, and it's not just me, right? Okay, good. But there came a day when I refused to do that. I knew on some level I was born to be a teacher, a coach, a spiritual advisor, a mentor, a leader, a friend, a lover, a mother, a daughter. And no matter what I ran into, I've been dedicated to letting my life speak as loudly as the person I was born to be. There came a day when I made the big decision that I would live my life to the fullest no matter what. But guess what? I didn't make that perfectly clear to myself until I was about 33 years old. Up until that point, my early life challenges and my kind of young adult obstacles were massively blocking my good. My life was showing me, was speaking to me, that I was angry about my upbringing. I was angry about my relationship heartbreaks. I had several very unique betrayal experiences, cutthroat coworkers, unfair politics, homophobia, misogyny, ableism, all these things. Just to name a few of the things that really got under my skin. And they stole my energy. Maybe you can relate by being stymied by some of those same things. But somehow I found myself squarely at the fear end of the spectrum. And I had decided I would never give my heart to anyone else again. I would protect myself from loss by not expecting anything. I'll just accept my career where it is. I'll never be able to independently support my daughter. Basically, I didn't trust life, and I didn't trust the world around me. And I had long ago given up on the idea of trusting God, as I understood God to be back then. But that is when I had a life-changing discovery, spirituality, and quite frankly, the teachings of Ernest Holmes. It was in this philosophy that I was able to finally learn some very big things, the same very big things I'm trying to help other people learn. I began to understand that there were multiple perspectives on any of my life stories and traumas. And I could let my life speak the truth to me as easily as I could listen to the stories I had made up myself about everything that was happening in my experiences. I could listen to a higher truth and speak a higher truth. I learned that I didn't have to be afraid of everyone and every life risk, because no matter what happened, no matter how something turns out, the journey is going to be full of good stuff and hard stuff. And I can choose which of the stuff that I want to carry into the next day and which things I could just forgive and lay aside. That's where my choice came in. I learned that everyone on the planet is trying to figure out and understand what's going on in the grand scheme of things. And some people need religion to help them figure it out. Some people need an authority figure to tell them the possible answers to life. Some people need science. Some people need mystics and poets and psychics and astrology and crystals to help them figure it out, right? My job is to use any and all of those as I choose, and let everyone else take whatever path they're going to take to figure out this thing called life. All paths that lead to an inner knowing are valid and valuable. And I learned that I could stop judging everybody else on their paths that were different than my own, and that peace in my heart was possible. I also learned to trust the voice within me way more than anyone's opinion around me. But to even hear that inner voice and let it speak to me, I had to learn how to shut out the noise in my life and my busy brain full of judgment and fear. I had to learn how to stop listening to all of that. I learned to pray and meditate and be in silence to hear the whispers of my life and what they were trying to say to me. And what they were trying to say to me is, love everyone. Love yourself. Accept that everything is okay just the way it is. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Generosity is the basis of prosperity. God is all there is. And eventually those whispers got loud enough that I could hear them and loud enough that my life could speak them. Basically, I learned to live this passage from the Science of Mind textbook. We must cleave to the good and trust absolutely in the law of God to bring about any desired end. Spirit will mold our purposes when we allow it to do so. As we learn to depend more and more upon the perfect law, we shall find that the outward things which are necessary to our good will be provided. So I began to look for the good in everything that I encountered. I decided to trust the law of God to bring about what I desired. I allowed Spirit to mold my purposes. And as I practiced working with the laws of life, everything that was necessary was indeed provided. To sum it up, through practicing spirituality, I changed my thoughts and my life changed and shifted. And I realized I was moving toward the love end of the continuum. And my life started telling me that. I realized that fear had lost its hold on me. And my life began to speak love. As I bathed in forgiveness and gratitude, my relationships got sweeter. As I developed powerful collaborations with my coworkers and teams at work, we were inspired to great success. I found serenity in the relationships that were wounded, sometimes through letting that relationship go with love, and sometimes through really working on it and improving it. I decided to love everyone who crossed my path by offering acceptance and honoring boundaries. Yeah, my life began to speak love, and my life began to speak peace. I found peace in my heart around world issues as I stopped judging everyone and everything as either good or bad, right or wrong. I put down my signs that said war, basically. Peace was found in simply allowing everyone to figure out their own stuff. I centered myself in peaceful relationships at work and in my personal circles. I purposefully sought out peace in nature and brought that peace into my hula hoop of my life. My hula hoop of my life is my realm of influence. And my life began to speak abundance. I truly did read our book that I chose for these 2 months, Spiritual Economics. If you haven't gotten it yet, I'm telling you, it changed my life. I studied it. Resources of every kind started flowing into my life. I got career advancements, opportunities to socialize and travel, and early retirement came to me. I had found the truth that God is my source and that Spirit could flow my good to me in a wide variety of ways. I set out to learn how to be a generous person, allowing my heart to inspire me. And I watched all the financial energy I poured out return to me in the most amazing ways. My life speaks prosperity, and my life spoke my passion. And I realized it started speaking my earliest passions. I was given the opportunity to train and do motivational speaking in my career. I kept finding ways to build connections with like-minded people, circles, classes, book studies, and eventually ministries in this particular community now. But most satisfyingly, my life began to speak fun and joy. As I realized and released those people who weighed me down, the drama and judgments and all that, and I let that go, I attracted to myself people who could laugh openly with me, people who wanted to have fun the way I wanted to have fun. You know, cheering on my favorite football team, right? this afternoon. I can't wait. Or singing in groups. I love to sing, or loving our dogs, or exercising together, or celebrating milestones in fun ways, traveling, learning, and growing, and enjoyment. My personal life speaks of joy, and so does my work, y'all. So maybe it's time for some introspection. Is your life speaking the way you want it to speak? And if work is the way you spend the majority of your time, is there a way to allow your professional life to reflect your truest heart and center around your passions? The phrase, let your life speak, is a time-honored Quaker admonition. Parker Palmer, the great Christian teacher and writer, wrote an entire book by that title, Let Your Life Speak. And in it he said this: before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody and what values you represent. You were born to speak truth and values, so you've got to investigate that for yourself. But let your life tell you what it came here to be. As Palmer says, listen for what it intended when it, zipped into your magic suit. Why did your soul come here? Why? Listen and let it tell you where it is deeply satisfied and content to stay. And listen when it's restless and it wants to move and crave a change. Listen when it longs to love and forgive and extend compassion. Listen when it discovers passion and joy and wants more of that. What truths do you embody? What values do you represent? And then let your life live out loud. So back to Queen Elizabeth for a minute. As I join, and we all join the rest of the world in celebrating her life or remembering her life, they're going to recount her accomplishments and her struggles. And when I was watching some of that, I just thought, what a great illustration for this talk today. And I may not agree with every decision she made or her politics or whatever. Her life spoke loudly and consistently of her values. Duty, privacy, neutrality, family loyalty, those are the things she valued. Her life spoke pretty consistently as she lived her long years in the public eye. She was evaluated all the time. Her life spoke. So when you're watching that, think about this week as you're watching the stuff about her, think about where her values are on display, and then look at yourself. How are your values on display? Pulitzer Prize-winning author Annie Dillard asserts this: how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. So the holy invitation to you this morning is to spend your days letting your life speak the highest truth and values you can know for yourself and your world. To spend your days speaking of them in everything you do and everything you say. Because your life speaks to you to let you know where you're moving on that continuum of, are you heading towards more fear? Are you heading towards more love? And then listen. Becoming you is your vocation. It is your profession. And a life worth pursuing and a life worth speaking is what you're up to. And next week, I'm going to talk about what I learned actually from Walt Disney at one of the peak moments of my life, and I can't wait to share that with you, but it's going to be more about how do you live and speak your life more truly. And so we have to honor ourselves, and Derek's next song is kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of way of reminding us to live as we are here to live. And so it is. Thank you.